Okay, stop. Okay, as you saw, he then discovers that there are aliens among us, controlling us, and so on and so on. Now, then, Nada escapes and returns to the construction site to talk over what he has discovered with his friend Armitage. And then comes one of the other key sequence of the film. There is something so obvious going there, so obviously strange that we don't even usually notice it. Nada wants his friend to put on the glasses so that he will see reality, and the friend resists. And it's a totally irrational scene, legendary, maybe known to some of you, going on for over 10 minutes. It's totally irrational, but I think deeply convincing. Why? So please, Dave, let's go on with the second scene.
The best I could do.
You know, he always wants to convince himself if the other guy is human.
You better find yourself someplace to hide and keep praying nobody ever finds you.
Dave, can you please put voice a little bit lower, because this will go on for the 10 minutes for my final reflections, as it were. Then you will see in the final battle, after destroying the broadcasting antenna by means of which the aliens controlled us, Nada is mortally wounded. As his last dying act, he gives the aliens the finger. With the signal now missing, people suddenly see the aliens in their midst. So first, let me develop a little bit about this beautifully naive mise-en-scène of ideology. Through the critico-ideological glasses, we directly see what in my psychoanalytic jargon I would have called the master signifier beneath the chain of knowledge. We learn to see dictatorship in democracy. There is, of course, a naive aspect in this staging, reminding us of the not so well-known fact that some friends told me this. In the 1960s, the leadership of the Communist Party of the United States, in order to account for its failure to mobilize workers, seriously entertained the idea that the US population is already controlled by some secretly distributed drugs in air, in water supply, and so on. But I think we do not need aliens or secret drugs or gases or whatever. The form of ideology does the work without them. It is because of this form that the depicted scene nonetheless stages our truth. Look at the front page of our daily newspapers. Every title, even and especially when it pretends just to inform us, contains an implicit injunction. So when you are asked to choose between liberal democracy and fundamentalism, it is not only that one term is obviously preferred. What is more important, the true injunction is to see this as the true choice, to ignore third options. So again, naive as it may seem, the film's staging of ideology is nonetheless more complex than it may appear. Once you put the glasses on and see it, it no longer determines you, which means that before you see it through the glasses, you also saw it, but you were not aware of it. I use here a joke that I'm almost ashamed to tell the story again. I use it so often, but nonetheless, I will do it briefly. You know, my joke with Donald Rumsfeld ontology, known knowns, unknown knowns, and so on. Literally, through these glasses, you see the unknown knowns, things that you don't know that you know, but nonetheless, you read them, they determine you. There is a further feature which makes this scene of putting on the glasses contemporary. In it, the ideological injunction is hidden so that it can only be directly seen through the glasses. Such a relationship between visible and invisible is predominant in our so-called postmodern, non-authoritarian consumerist societies, in which we subjects are no longer addressed on behalf of some big ideological identity, but we are simply addressed as subjects of pleasure. Today's ideology doesn't tell us, sacrifice yourself for your country. The dominant message is realize yourself, enjoy life, make the best of it, and so on and so on. The master's injunction is hidden, but This is not how traditional ideology works. In the traditional, more traditional ideology, it is almost an inverse relationship. The explicit text addresses us as followers of some big cause, while the implicit message delivered between the lines concerns the obscene surplus enjoyment with which we are bribed if we subject ourselves to the cause. Like, for example, become a good fascist. Let's imagine a fascist poster. Do your duty towards your country, defend it against Jewish communist plot, become a fascist. Then you put on the same glasses and you can read. Okay, and you can read. And you can steal from the Jews, beat and lynch them, and so on and so on. Become a good Catholic priest, serve God. You put on the glasses, you can read, and you can play with the young boy as a dessert for it. Or get properly married, you put on the glasses, and an occasional discreet affair is tolerated. So we can imagine for more traditional ideology, again, the opposite ideological glasses, where what you read is not the explicit order, as here, underlying the appearance of hedonist freedom, but on the contrary, you read the obscene, invisible, obscene underground. And I think we can go pretty far into how this works today. For example, imagine a scene of starving children in Africa with a call to do something, help them. You know, like, are you aware of, you know, all this stuff which I think is absolute manipulation? Not that it's not true, but the ideology inscribed into it. Like, are you, sorry, stop, please. Okay, that for every word that I spoke here, 100 children died of malnutrition in Africa. This black, it sounds so humanistic, but I think if you put the ideological glasses on, the true message of this alertness, do something, people are starving, is don't think, don't politicize, forget about the true causes of their poverty. Just act, contribute money so that you will not have to think. I think this is the true message. I think, again, that this emergency state rhetoric, we in the States are living in ivory tower and so on, it's already appropriated by those in power. Then there is the scene you've just seen, the long fight between Nada and Armitage, worthy of Fight Club, another, I think, masterpiece of the Hollywood left. As you saw, it starts with Nada saying to Armitage, I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start to eat that trash. The fight, as you noticed, is taking place among overturned trash bins. Then the fight went on, you saw, for unbearable 10 minutes. And it's a very strange fight. There are moments of exchanges of friendly smiles, and it's in itself totally irrational. Why doesn't Armitage accept to put the glasses on? Just to satisfy his friend. The only explanation is that he knows that his friend wants to see him something dangerous, to attain a prohibited knowledge which would totally spoil the relative peace of his daily life. The violence staged here is, this violence of two of them fighting, is a positive violence, a condition of liberation. The lesson is that our liberation from ideology is not a spontaneous act, an act of discovering our true self. And that's what I find convincing in this simple scene. Just think how it totally turns around the usual New Age idea of critique of ideology, which would be in everyday life we have ideological glasses. Learn to put down, take off the glasses and see with your own eyes reality the way it is. No, unfortunately, it doesn't work like this. Liberation hurts. You have to be forced to put your glasses on. The problem is that, again, we are naturally in ideology. Our natural immediate side is ideological. It is thus quite appropriate that the final gesture of the dying hero, as I already hinted at, is the one of up yours, the finger, and then you will see, because that antenna which emits the rays by means of which aliens control us explodes, people start to see. You will see a couple of comical scenes where people simply see who are the aliens among themselves, and I didn't do it on purpose, but in the very last scene, by mistake, I cut it too short. You will see a prostitute on the top of a customer, no? And then you see, but it's a poetic truth that the scene will be cut short, because in the film you see this kind of a zombie-like alien, no? Now you can see your governor, whatever, I don't know. But let's see this very short scene, please.
Give a press conference and how to buy a sailboat as prime news.
Like shit. I'm on it.
What happened? What's wrong?
All the sex and violence on the screen has gone too far for me. I'm fed up with it. Filmmakers like George Romero and John Carpenter have to show some restraint. They're simply...
You're filled with lightning when you hit the road. You're feeling that V6 power as you take control. Nothing can stop you now. You're moving on.
It's a chance. Okay. So, this up yours, the so-called impudent finger, mentioned already in ancient Roman writings. And it's quite consistent, this gesture, because it is difficult to miss the Christological resonances of this scene of the dying hero who saved the world. No longer then that in a unique moment in the history of art, the dying Christ himself was portrayed in a similar way. In Michelangelo's unfinished drawing of Christ on the cross, which he first gave to his passionate, intimate friend Vittoria Colonna, and then inexplicably asked her to return it to him, it's a great mystery, the history of art. What is so terrible that he wanted it terribly bad? Okay, so the drawing renders the critical moment of Christ's doubt and despair, the moment of, Father, why have you forsaken me? For the first time, so art historians claim, in the history of painting, an artist tried to capture Christ's abandonment by God Father. But the key detail is you have to focus on the right hand of Christ. There are no nails to be seen, but the hands, okay, not the middle finger, but the point finger is stretched out. A vulgar gesture which, according to Quintilian's rhetorics of gestures, which it can be proven was known to Michelangelo, functions as a sign of devil's rebellious challenge. And it's a nice, different reading. Christ's why is not a resigned why, but an aggressive, accusatory one. There is in the drawing even an implicit tension between the expression of Christ's face, despair, suffering, and the mode signaled by his hand, rebellion, defiance, as if the hand articulates the attitude the face doesn't dare to express. And I don't have time. It would be nice to go here, for example, to the Fight Club. You remember that wonderful scene of Ed Norton beating himself in front of his boss, where also his hand disobeys him. His hand starts to beat him. So the lesson of Michelangelo is here a very precise one. One should abandon the notion of Christ as a model of self-erasing humility, modest self-abandonment, and surrender to the higher paternal authority. Father, let your will be done, and so on. We should rediscover a Christ who is strangely close to a fallen angel like Lucifer, a Christ of obstinate rebellion against the order of things, a Christ who is ready to persist on its own against all odds. This is the Christianity we need today. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. I stay here or?